It's fine. Yep.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Brothers Y'all Good. My name is Mike. I'm here with my co-host, Jason, and we've got a special guest tonight. But we start, as we do every night, with, yo, Jason, man, you good?
Man, to be honest, yes, I am good and excited that the day is over. I've been doing my best to stay focused. And if anybody knows a brother with ADD like me, it's tough. And I got a phone call from a friend today, and they was like, he called me later on and was like, hey, I kind of noticed today I'm kind of feeling some type of way. And I was like, nah. What you didn't get is that I'm trying to focus and pay attention. And so like I'm trying to get some stuff done at work and trying to really, so I'm a different person than I normally am, but I am good and I'm happy to be here. How about you, brother? You good?
I'm good, man. We talked just the other day about my last Friday, which was incredible, man. Being able to connect with some brothers that I hadn't talked to in a minute, try to be support really on the mental health tip. One of the brothers, they were both attorneys, but one came up to me and was talking about the fact that, yo, I checked out your podcast and I just thought you might be a place to come to talk. And so we spent almost an hour and a half together just talking and me trying to share some knowledge and some wisdom from all my time here on earth to help comfort and support a brother. And that's, as we talked about last night, to me, that's what this is all about. If we can reach some folks that are connected to us in any way so that they find through us a safe and comfortable place to have a conversation about the things that cause them stress and discomfort, then I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, even if it's not my day job, which I love tremendously. But I love what we're doing here. And so I love this brother that's joining us tonight because I got a chance to spend time with him last weekend, or weekend before last, when he was down here in San Diego. Got to meet him and his lovely woman, Mo, and hang out with them and drive them around San Diego and really chop it up with them, get to know them, have them get to know me a bit. We went to the San Diego State Aztec game and saw some incredible basketball in the extreme meaning of that phrase, including a team that almost lost an 11-point lead in less than 15 seconds. And so it was a great time together, and we're really excited to have him here. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jason, to remind everybody what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. I'm excited about today, my brother Rashawn, definitely excited. And, Brothers Y'all Good is more than a podcast. We call it a podcast, or as Drew says, our fancy little show, it's more than a podcast. It's a real talk space where Black men can come through, open up, and get honest about mental health. This show dives deep into the stuff that matters. We're talking about faith, fatherhood, fellowship, and all the ups and downs of navigating life as a Black man today. From dealing with stress, anxiety, and trauma to breaking through the stigma that's been holding us back. This podcast keeps it real with personal stories, expert advice, and practical tools to help you find peace and strength. This ain't just talk, though. It's about building each other up, sharing experiences, and creating a healthier, stronger community. So pull up, tune in, and let's have the conversations that heal. Together, we're breaking the silence, overcoming barriers, and helping every brother to be able to say, yeah, brother, I'm good. So welcome to Brothers Y'all Good. And let's, if you don't mind, first of all, I just want to say, Brother Rashawn, you good?
Man, I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm good. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, man. Well, this brother right here has a special place in my heart. He bullied me when we first met, and I'll let him tell you about what happened. But I was traumatized after our first meeting, and so I didn't actually want to have him on the show, but he made us put him on here. And I'm just kidding. No, but this brother means yeah. Hey, Don't let that double XL sweatshirt fool you. That brother's on slow right there. And I had to remind him about what it is, about the level of fear that I have for him when I saw him. But to be real, our meeting was in genuine Jason fashion. And the relationship has developed the way that I believe relationships should, man, when you meet somebody that you share common bonds with, not just about faith and family, but about life. We happen to share the same career. We're in the same position in our career. And I'll let you kind of open up and tell a little bit about yourself. But I'm really, really, really happy that you're here. And one last thing I'll share. I was talking to Mike when we were going through. Remember, we talked about our list, and there's people that, we had 10 folks. We both picked 10, and we're trying to narrow it down to our 5. And so, Mike had his 5, and then he's like, this for sure, this. And then I had my 5, and I'm like, there's a guy you really need to meet. And I said, man, I'm gonna call him right now. And I called, and man, I think we probably ended up on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever, just talking about everything. And you're everything that many Black American men need in our society. You encompass a lot of that. You're a very dynamic and unique man. And I'm super grateful, very, very grateful to be able to call you brother. All jokes aside, and I'm gonna tear you down a little bit tonight because I can't let you live your best life. You're tall, dark, handsome, muscular. You make me sick. But I got a tremendous amount of love for you, Rashawn. And so, brother, if you want to just take a second and introduce yourself to the folks, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, no, man. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I'm blessed. Like you said, man, it's I got to be honest. I'm nervous to be here. You get on camera, you do this. Your life's under literally the spotlight, and you basically got to talk about how you live and why you live and the things you believe in. And kind of like what you said, man, brothers, y'all good, and the intro you gave, the authenticity about removing the stigmas of how we should get along as people, let alone we Black, let alone we brothers, just human beings, just being real, like the day you first met me, just man, I ain't scared of you. Put your arms away. You know what I'm saying? Living in the freeness and the boldness to basically engage in true, genuine relationship. And so just like the intro you gave on me, man, you've been 100 the whole time, just genuine. And I think that's something that is to be appreciated. And more so, it's something that's felt, It's not something that's talked about. It's something that from heart to heart, you can feel it. So appreciate that. Judge, it was the same when I met you. Obviously, it's an extension, kind of, how when one brother feel you a certain way, you like, okay, he done vetted him, so he good. So it was the same thing, man. And so I'm honored, man. And Jay, kind of like you said, man, I think it's honorable to hear people talk about that I'm somebody that has something to offer to men, to humanity, because it's in humility, I see my mistakes. You know what I mean? I see my mistakes, and I ask, in all honesty, like, why me? Like how could, if you knew what I did, yesterday, and I think we all have that. And at the same time, though, I have stuff that I think, because of the mindset at which I approach life, I think I do have something to offer about how I fall, when I fall, how I bounce back. And I think that's been the story of my life, whether it's in business, whether it's in our careers, whether it's as a parent. I'm not afraid to share my bruises, my scars, my humility. I'm not afraid to cry on camera, and I know that's something that we're taught is kind of not the epitome of a man. And I try to basically break that narrative down, because it's actually what I think is one of the things that it means to be a man, what it means to be human first, because honestly, before you have woman and you have man, you have human, and that's the humility and humanity in all of us. And I think that's kind of what my life I've tried to live. And so I'm honored again to hear you say that you call me brother and I have something to offer. So it's an honor to be here.
Just real quick, it's funny. We were at a conference, and it was a union conference, and I had one of the ladies who was kind of the head of the California Professional Firefighters there's thousands of people there. There's a bunch of people there. It's one of our district conferences, and she's walking around. She goes, "Oh, this is Rashawn," and he's standing there like this. And here what are you like? How tall are you, Rashawn?
6'2".
He's 6'2", and I'm 5'8", if that. And I walk up, I'm like, "Man, put your arms down." I didn't even know who this brother was at all. I said, "Man, put your arms down, man. Ain't nobody scared of you, man. Who you think you are?" And he was like, "What?" You know what I mean? And it's been on ever since. And one of the things, if you don't mind, if I just sort of kick the questions off, if you don't mind, man, you have a really, to me, an incredible view of mental health. I think you have a very, I think, in my opinion, a decent perspective about what that is. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about what mental health is and maybe what it has meant to you?
Yeah, first of all, obviously, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a doctor, so let me throw that out there first for legality reasons. But I am a human being who has a mind, who has a mentality, who has health, who has lived 45 years in the struggle. So I think I'm an expert on myself. And so what that means to me, mental health, it kind of means, like we talked about a while ago, like going in that closet, like really going in that closet and really being able to hear my own voice, hear my own thoughts, feel my own feelings, and kind of heal myself. But before I can heal myself, I have to have an honest assessment of myself, And even in the assessment phase, it's being gentle with myself. It's not bringing definitions that come from my peer group or my adversaries or even society. It's not bringing those definitions into my realm when I assess myself. Because like the new phrase now is, it's okay to not be okay. That's a admonition of like, yo, you don't have to judge yourself by this standard or that standard. You can cry and be okay. It's okay to not be okay. And I think that's where the question, brothers, y'all good. Like, I think that's where it comes from. So for me, mental health is about being genuine, first of all, with yourself. Like, do I hurt? Am I sad? Where am I at? And am I okay with looking in that closet and sitting there and asking for help and being gentle with myself and being humble and actually wiping away a lot of the pressure that keeps us from going in that room? So for me, it's just about being genuine with your humanity, basically. And then, like you told me, I'll never forget this, Jay. You said, obviously, in the nature of our business, running calls, because after a certain amount of calls, we can have compassion fatigue. You just get worn down. You said to me, I try on every call to see the God in people.
Amen.
And man, that hits me to my heart, because it's stepping outside the box and saying, I'm gonna try to find the humanity in everything. And it starts with myself. Finding humanity in me to fall, to stumble, to pick myself up, to say it's okay not to be okay. Because then when I interact with other people, I have the same grace for them. Because if I don't have the grace for me, there's no way I can extend it to you genuinely. So that's kind of my approach on it, man. It's like when I walk out the door, when I get up and put 10 toes down, am I okay to talk to me? Am I okay to do an assessment and give myself grace? And like, yo, it's okay to be sad today. It's okay to feel whatever it is I feel. Because like I said, then that gives me grace and room for the next person to feel what they feel. And to keep it 100, if you walk out the door on 10s and you get in the car and turn the corner, somebody cuts you off, you now at 11 or 12. Ain't no room, ain't no grace for them. So your own mental health from not doing an assessment when you left, you can't extend that grace to nobody. So that's kind of my approach, man. Is just look in the mirror before I start yelling out the window.
Right. But let me ask you, Rashawn, where did you learn that sense of treating yourself with gentleness and kindness, treating yourself with some humanity? Because what's true for many of us is our self-talk, right, is what really causes us to struggle. There's a phrase that my biggest enemy is my inner me. right? Because it's that voice inside. So where did you learn to have a voice that you could talk to yourself with kindness and gentleness as you did that accessible?
I'm still learning, Judge. I'm actually honestly still learning. For me, it was trial and error. I think you break something so often. You kind of do. Who discovered with Thomas Edison? You discover a million different ways to discover light. You know, I mean, and honestly, and not trying to be funny, is I failed so many times that I realized the way I was going at it was wrong. It wasn't giving me any success. And I got tired of failing and I got tired of wasting energy doing the same things that people, society, or everybody else said I should try. And then I just really tried to spend time with myself to go, it's okay. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that included therapy, it included counseling, books, but it kind of really started when I was at a breaking point. And I mean, a point of when I'm like, I'm tired of doing this the way I think I need to do it. And that included stuff like going to 10-day silence meditation retreat, stuff that nobody in my household or in my peer group had ever done. You know, it was really getting outside of the walls that I was raised in, and I call it the brainwashing or thinking that I thought I was supposed to have as a black male in this age and time, and getting outside of that and going, what seems like it speaks to me? You know, and that really is what started this journey of just grabbing stuff from all kinds of different places that felt like healing. It spoke to my soul, and so that's really where it started. And I mean, I took classes from an organization called Challenge Day, which was a SEL program, social emotional learning program, that talked about childhood traumas. And I took my daughters to this session. So I mean, it was stuff that was unconventional to really tap into, just like feeling like I'm a human being again. You know, and it was really off the beaten path. And it was from, and it was from the least expected place. I had a coworker who was a captain of mine. He was semi-respected, but nobody would have ever went to him for like spiritual advice or some new age method. And just by being open to places that people tell you should be closed off to, I got a nugget that changed my life. He talked to me about Vipassana, which is a meditation thing. I was like, where is it? Just curious. Went to a 10-day retreat. I would have never expected to get that information from him. Nobody would have ever won a bet if I said, guess who gave this to me? And so that's what I mean. Just constantly being in the search, turning over rocks that look unfamiliar to you, that aren't in your beaten path, weren't in my upbringing, and just really trying to heal my soul. Because I believe the body knows how to heal itself. If we get quiet enough and still enough, the body will tell you what it needs to heal itself. But you got to get away from all the distractions. You got to get away from all the noise to hear that still, quiet inner voice.
Amen.
What was it? So, like, was there a moment where you, like, maybe take us back to kind of how you got to where you are right now? And if there was like a moment where you're like, I need to do something, or what was the realization, or how did you get to this point where mental health became a priority?
Oh, man, buckle up. Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Buckle up. So, and I know this will probably speak to a lot of the audience, man. So I grew up in a traditional, you know, Black Christian middle-class family. Dad was an entrepreneur. Mom worked for the government. And I say mom worked for the government entrepreneur because you can see bureaucracy on this side and like, hey, I gotta do it the way that is gonna make me money. My dad is the one who told me this statement: there's a right way to do the wrong thing. That's totally entrepreneurial. my mother over here, FDA rules and rules on top of rules. And my dad, he grew up and didn't have a dad. The military was his father, right? My mother grew up in a very, very strong Christian family. My grandfather was the rock. My grandfather, one of his statements was, I live my life with an open hand, but when I close it, it become a club. Christian, pastor, elder. And he gave me a foundation. This is key. He gave me a foundation, and I'll never forget this. He gave me a foundation to explore my true self. And I'm getting emotional now because whenever I tell the story, every time my grandfather would see me, he would say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, being a black oddball kid in East Oakland, I had self-doubts. I was the kid who never felt like he fit in, got picked on, got bullied, turned to, getting bigger so that way I could look intimidating so you wouldn't pick on me, you would just leave me alone. So that's kind of my trajectory in regards to my self-esteem. But the nugget my grandfather put in, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. It gave me the freedom to realize no matter if I fail, if I succeed, no matter if I'm picked on, if I'm loved, there's a place that I'm loved regardless. And I tell that to my granddaughter to this day. Every time I see her, it's the first thing I tell her. I love you, I love you, I love you so much. And it's the last thing she hears from me. Because I realized, man, knowing there's a place of unconditional love and acceptance is the seed everybody needs to grow from. To grow, genuinely grow from and have a positive, resilient perspective in life. You have to know at least at some point, someplace, sometime, you are authentically loved. And so that was kind of the anchor for me. And then from there, I did the traditional stuff. I played basketball because I wanted attention. I wanted to be popular. I was looking for my self-esteem stuff. But all the time growing up, my dad had anger issues. My dad, the military raised him. So he thought love was militants. He thought love was, if I tell you twice, I'm spanking you, And don't get me wrong. I appreciate what I learned because it was part of my upbringing that I needed. And I also appreciate the fact that when I parented, I was able to get the nuggets to not transfer the part that I wouldn't want transferred to my kids. I could give them the lesson. But I didn't have to give it to them that way. And so I'm very thankful for that. And I learned compassion when I became a parent. I learned that none of us get it right. We're all struggling one step in front of the other, trying to figure it out. And it was that compassion I learned from my dad that really opened my heart. Because instead of sitting and judging him for the parent I wished he was, I was able to appreciate the parent, the friend, the father, the man, the businessman. I was able through compassion to appreciate who he was instead of judging him for what I wanted him to be. And that was a transformational moment for me because it really allowed grace to really grow in my heart. Because at that moment, I stood at a crossroad. I could have been angry. I could have been upset. I could have been frustrated. I could have said, I'm not this because of you. I could have done all those things and I could have found reasons for it. Or I could have took the road that says, you know what? Let me figure out how he was raised and how he grew up. Let me figure out his challenge. Let me figure out what it was like trying to be a black man in the 60s, feeding your family and doing your business and being, picked on and looked at differently. Let me try to see some of the struggles he had to overcome to show up for himself every day. And then from that, I became really compassionate and I really started to see my father, not as a father, but as a friend, as a human being, as a man. And that opened up different avenues and levels of compassion in my life that just overflows.
Man, they talk a lot about wounds.
What was that, wounds? How was that?
Wounds, like a WOUND, not wound. Yeah, you single brothers be tripping. He's not. Well, he's single-ish. Yeah, don't make me call Mo. Yeah, get your jaw. What kind of things got wrecked in your life because your mental health was not intact?
Two marriages. The beginning of my kids' childhood wasn't the best with me, and I admit that. But let me say this though, for those that's listening, no matter where it is now, the beautiful thing about self-awareness is once you have it, you have the ability to now, Romans 8:28, you have the ability to take all the things that you may have looked at as like, dang, I messed that up, I did that wrong. And through humility and compassion, you actually win when you go back. And so, not getting off track, but with my kids now, like I said, I colossally messed up. I had 3 daughters. I didn't grow up with no sisters. So this whole emotional crying thing, I was like, what in the heck is going on? What is that? Get somewhere and shut up. You know, keep in mind, I was raised by a militant father and all this. So I didn't understand it. I didn't understand emotions, mental health. I didn't understand it. So I honestly have went to each one of my kids through a session and said, I realize there's things, I'm getting emotional. I realize there's things I may have done in your childhood out of love that didn't feel like love. And I apologize from the bottom of my heart. And I had that moment with each one of my kids, and all of the ashes that I had created turned into rivers and rivers of love. And it totally transformed my relationship with my daughters. And so, to the audience, if you think it's in shambles now, all that is that's ashes laying there that can be turned into diamonds later. But you got to do the self-awareness work. And so, to your point, I erected. My kids didn't want to be around me. 2 failed marriages. You just look at the carnage and you go, I thought I was heading for the mountaintop, but I'm in the valley. And so, like I said, that honest assessment piece, you're not afraid to go look at that closet, look at that mirror, and go, you know what? This is the true assessment of my life. And it was 2 wrecked marriages. I took a picture of my bank account, bro. I had $12, and I purposely took a picture of it because I go, I'm not gonna be here always. And there was things that I needed to change and things that needed to change in my life that would, when I look back, it would change what I was looking at. And so, to your question about when did I know I was wrecked? When the things that I spent so much time putting into marriages, raising my kids, and I looked at it. So look, I looked at this garden I spent so much time tilling, and all I had was weeds. All I had was weeds. And it wasn't because of the seeds was bad. It was because I wasn't watering it correct. I was putting the wrong fertilizer. The gardener wasn't willing to look at the garden. He was trying to blame the garden. And so 2 failed marriages, man, bank account dry, bone dry, you know. Yeah, and just the relationship with my kids wasn't where it needed to be. And the thing is, people around you in the same situation will lie to you. They will make your $12 make you think you're doing good because they're in the same boat. So that whole assessment about mental health involves a group like this, like in questions, like, brother, you good? Like, no, you really good, man. You know, it involves that. So just a wrecked, shambled life.
But let's talk a little bit more about that, Rashawn, because your career is one that there aren't many parallels to. You've risen to a rank in your profession that folks like us, except with the exclusion of people like Jason, rarely get to, right? You're one of very few that look like us in the industry, the fire industry, that make it so far. And so you were juggling some stuff, right? There's the family stuff, there's the marriage stuff, the kid stuff, but there's also the work stuff. And so how were you balancing all that as you were trying to assess what was going on with your relational stuff with family members and also continue to do the job that's going to get you recognized, promoted, advanced at work?
Honestly, Judge, I wasn't balancing any of it well. I was succeeding in one area and failing in another. And so I was the horse that was winning a race. I was winning a race. I promoted. I was first on my promotion exam. I'm the only Black captain in my department. So I was winning this societal race. But when I came home, I was failing. I was in dead last. And so I don't know that I balanced it well. I prioritized differently. And that's what I mean by groups, having what the church would call elders around you, you know, like to tell you, hey, you running that race, but you running at the expense of your family. And I think there's a scripture that says, what would it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? And so it's one of those things. I don't think I was balancing it well. And to be fair and honest with you, I would have to ask those around me, hey, how am I balancing this? And from what my kids told me, I was balancing it horribly. I was just choosing one thing over the other, and I didn't have any harmony in my life. I had successes. I had things I could hang on the wall. I came out number one in the captain's test. I did this, I did that. You know, I'm promoted. But at the same time, there was no harmony at home, which is why there was 2 divorces, which is why I had a struggling relationship with my kids. So for me, balance came when I looked at my why. When I really looked at my why and I started to connect what I'm doing with the why. Like, why am I trying to promote? Is it to better my family or is it for me? Why am I doing these things? Because if it doesn't align with my why, then I can assess it honestly and accurately and go, you know what? Maybe I should or shouldn't do that. It'll pull me off course. It'll pull me off track.
Let me follow up real quick. I'm going to go back to Jason. So tell our audience a little bit about your why now. What's the why that allows you to be such a different guy now? As part of me getting to know you, and I've only known you for a month, right? We talked, I think, right before we had our first episode go live. And as Jason said, he put you on the phone and we talked for 2 hours. And I was like, we should be recording this because this is the podcast. Because you got it immediately. You got what I was trying to share with Jason as the vision for what I thought this could be. You were already in that mind space. So help our audience understand getting to the why that gets you to create change in your life that's meaningful, not just for us individually, but for everybody we touch.
So for me, there was a shift a few years ago when I said, and I think keeping it 100, I think not having the financial pressure of trying to provide for a family at one time, which was 5 kids, 7 people, not having that financial pressure, keeping it 100, allowed me to breathe a little bit because I had felt like I arrived somewhere. Wherever somewhere is, I feel like I arrived somewhere. I can take a breath now, you know? But in that moment, then I started to look for meaning. And what I mean by that is I started to go, when I'm gone, what will my life have meant? What changes will I have affected? What things will I have moved forward? What things will I have held steady? Or will I just be gone? And they'll just say, he consumed, he came, he took, he left. And that's really what changed me to go, I want to leave a mark on how people feel. I remember somebody asked me a couple of days ago at work, like, how do you know when you're doing it right? And, you know, does it mean you follow every policy and you're this epitome of leadership? I said, nope. For me, this season, it means everybody I touch will leave feeling valued, respected, and supported. No matter what the scenario, what the situation is, they will leave feeling like he wanted me to feel a certain way when I was around. And for me, that transcended into a lot of things. It transcended into less chasing of money and more chasing of the thing I'm talking about, like what will make people's lives feel differently. And that, for one of the things, is I decided to dedicate the latter part of my life at moving the DEI ball forward. Not in this demonized sense of the word, but in the sense of people should feel honorable, valued, respected, and supported. People should understand diversity isn't this myth about lowering standards. It's just about saying there's inherent value in all people, and we have to be willing to look outside this colonialized lens and go, there's value everywhere. It's diverse, it's vast, and just look at that instead of putting labels. So making those shifts were basically me saying, I'm going to dedicate my life to the meaning of something, not to the pursuit of tangible things that I can't take with me. And that was a significant moment.
Yeah. Wow. You talked a minute ago about how you healed the relationship with your daughters. And I saw, it's interesting. I saw you interacting with 2 of your daughters yesterday, and it's cool. You can tell that y'all cool. You know what I'm saying? You can tell that they know that they're loved. I mean, they're, just even asking your daughter questions and her feeling comfortable to sit down and engage and like, let me see what he's talking about, as we were talking about her future and what's going to happen and her excitement and trusting God. What did it feel like to, did you ever answer when I said, what was there a particular moment? Was there a particular thing that happened? Like, did you get like, what did your bottom look like? And then what was it? Let me ask that question first. Then I'm going to ask my apology question, but I want to know, what was there like an actual moment where you like, man, I need to like, because you can think you're lost as you're driving somewhere, but at some point you got to be like, man, oh, none of these streets look good. I mean, I need to turn around. Well, at what point did you say, I need to turn around? What was it? What was that defining moment?
I think, like
if there was one.
I think there was a series of moments. Like there was a series of, for example, I'll use the one that we can definitely relate to. In the fire industry, we go in a building, right? Along the way, we're doing what we're doing. We have progressive checks. I mean, there's a sentinel moment where you're like, we're getting the hell out of here. This is all going back. But there's progressive checks along the way. You go, am I going where I'm supposed to be going? And if it's a little gray, you may keep going. But when it gets really great, you're like, nah. I didn't have moments that were just totally blacked out. I'm like, oh, hell no. It was a series of moments that was like, this thing, $12? I'm 40, $12? I'm working so many hours, $12? You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, and we tell ourselves, I told myself, I'm busting my butt for my kids, man, and they ain't appreciating this. They don't want to hang out with me. Like, there was a series of checks that were like, what I think I'm doing isn't getting the result I'm getting. And we've all heard that insanity thing. Doing the same thing over and over again, expect different result. It was just moments of looking in the mirror and not recognizing my face, man. Really not recognizing, I say I want to be here. Well, who is this guy there? So it was a sentinel moment was when my dad died, but that was more of a moment of like a gut check about emotionally, where am I at? Like a gut check, like I just got hit in the mouth. I got hit really hard and mama ain't coming, daddy ain't coming. I can get on one knee and pick up this mouthpiece, but I don't know if I want to get up again. And that was hard relationally for me, for me and my brothers and fam. It was hard. But in that hardness, there was a massive blessing. As I'm at my dad's funeral and I'm doing somewhat of a eulogy, I realized it was through the struggles of things I had complained about. Why am I the only one here? Why am I doing this? Why ain't nobody helping me? It was through the struggles of those moments I was able to call my dad a friend. None of my brothers could say that. And I'm not disparaging them. I'm just saying they didn't travel the road I traveled to build that relationship. Even if I did it complaining, kicking, and screaming, because I was present and I was there and our emotions were there, I was able to stand up there and say, I knew my dad as a friend. And that was a central emotional moment for me, man, because a lot of times I know for me, I'm like, why me? Why me? Why me? I mean, I'm the youngest of 4 boys. Why? I'm shift work. Like, come on, man. I'm going out here running fire stations, coming in here, changing my dad's diapers, mopping the floor, doing this. Like, hold up, right? But in that moment when I stood up there over his casket, I was able to call him buddy, my friend, and my father. And it wiped away all of those complaints in those moments, and it gave it meaning. So that was a huge sentinel emotional moment for me. And then realizing my daughters are watching me. The next generation is watching me. And that was a sentinel moment. And when I mean watching, I'm not saying watching me be strong and just, no, watching me cry, watching me struggle, watching me ask why, watching me be more human every day. That was another sentinel moment for me.
Let me follow this up real quick with so you're feeling this. I mean, you're feeling this weight, right? You're realizing that things are bad and need to change, and that I get all. So, but then now you're like, I don't know, you get to this point where, I mean, if we're going to use the analogy of driving down the street and turning, where you have to turn the wheel and start going the other way. But how do you, what's going on, Wayne and Chaz? Hey, Sylvester, Rising Butterfly. Tom, I know you're on the stream, but I can't see you on the comments. There must be something going on. I don't know what's going on. I can't see everyone's comments. It's weird. But now that you know that you need to do something or make, I don't know what. So what did you do to begin the healing process? Because it's one thing to be like, man, my life is a wreck. I need to do something. Hey, Nina, but what did you do? What was the thing that you did now? You know what I mean? Like you got this where everything blew up. But now what does somebody do who's like, now I'm at that point and I want to, like, who did you turn to? Or who'd you ask or what?
I slowed down. I really slowed down. There was three things that came to me out of that. Silence, solitude, and servitude. Silence, solitude, and servitude were the things I used to heal myself and raise my awareness. So one of the things we talked about the 10-day retreat, that was total immersion in silence and some immersion in solitude. And then servitude, obviously you know what that is. It was somehow to give back, but servitude came last. The first two was silence and solitude. And it's going to sound simple, but like I said, it was getting away from the noise so I can hear what is broken. Like, why am I thinking this thought? Why is it me? Is it me too much TV? Is it what I'm watching? Is it what I'm eating? Is it what I'm listening? It was really slowing down and being silent. And it wasn't like I turned to one particular person. It was literally like when I was silent and still, the person arrived. The message arrived. The thing showed up. Like, it wasn't like, it was just like I said, the captain I had worked with many times, I would have never gone to him and said, do you know where I can go get mental help at? No, just when I was ready, I was able to pick up what was there the whole time. But it was me. I had to be silent. I had to, and that's the thing. Like, let's just say we're talking now and somebody's going to get a nugget, but the music in the background is so loud. It don't matter what they do. Don't matter if we come to their door and knock, they won't hear the knock. It was turning down the noise that really illuminated the pathway to me. And from that path, that's where I got silence, solitude, and servitude. It was the way to basically, and I still use it to this day. If I'm feeling off course or something, I'm like, man, it's too noisy around me. And I don't mean just physical noise. I mean, I'm either doing too much in my life. I'm running too hard after something that may not be appropriate or may not fit my why. So I got to get still and be silent and just let my body be able to communicate to me in a way.
Amen. Jason, you also had a follow-up question. You wanted to talk about apology, and I don't want to steal your question.
Man, you gonna say sorry to me? I'm waiting. Let me scoot up. Go ahead, Jay. I'm ready.
No. I wasn't gonna apologize to you for nothing. Yeah. You better be glad I didn't tell you to stop crying. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, yeah. I ain't ashamed of you. See, I didn't wipe it. I let it run.
Hey, you used the driest tissue in your house. You probably got a scratch on your face. Yeah.
Hey, to that point though, I remember when I was in one of those sessions with my daughter and I started crying. I remember hearing a voice said, "Don't wipe it. Don't wipe it. Let them see you. Let them see the tears." You know, and I remember that when you said this, and I remember that to this day, because part of me wants to be like, oh my God, what are people thinking? Like, no, man, I'm human. F that, man. You're going to see it. And I remember hearing that voice when I was there with my daughter. I mean, when I say crying, I'm talking about Jay. I was waterfall. And I remember hearing a voice say, no, let them see it. Let them see you be human.
What did that mean to you though? When you heard that voice and acted upon it, right? Because often we hear those voices in our head. And part of what I love about your story is one of courage. It's not just to know what the step is, but it's to do the step. So what did it mean to you? And what do you think it meant to your daughter that she got to look at her dad? And I'm the father of two girls as well. And I recognize that the sense, right? And Jason as well as girls, the sense that we're supposed to be that image of strength in the inability to be hurt, and we're going to show ourselves in what society says is the weakest way we can appear, which is to cry. Right? There is that slogan that I think all boys learn, which is boys don't cry, men don't cry. But you're acknowledge that the humanity of us demands that we do that. The Bible says that the person that we're supposed to recognize is the image of God on earth, Jesus. The shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. And so there's truth there. But what did it mean to you in that moment to listen to that voice and know that your daughter was going to see you waterfall of tears?
It meant I was in the right place, doing the right thing with the right mindset. It was a silent confirmation that I'm doing this right. It was a silent confirmation I'm doing this right. Because think about all the times we ask for guidance, and this is the way I look at it. We ask for guidance. It's not that you're not getting guidance. Are you in a place where you can hear guidance? You know, and so for me, it was a confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right spot. I'm with the right mindset. You know, I'm not letting my ego dictate this. I'm letting my humanity totally take over in this moment. And here's a thought for me. If I ask my daughters to be vulnerable with me, but I'm not going to be vulnerable with them. And here's a nugget. Like I learned this second divorce. I learned this. We as people oftentimes think people owe us the truth for nothing. You should just be an honest person, tell me the truth. It's honorable to expect that and want that. But I learned it's all an exchange. I would want the truth, but my responsibility is to make you feel safe to tell me the truth. That's my ownership of that exchange. Because I could say you should tell me the truth just because you're honorable. Well, that's your opinion. But if I don't feel safe and I'm in survival mode, man, I'm doing what I got to do to survive. I learned that in my second marriage. I learned there's a responsibility on me if I want something from you to give you a safe place to do that. And that was a hard lesson to learn. Like I said, it's second divorce. But I learned it, and I learned it with my kids. So I think to them, to your question, Judge, what it meant to them was they have a dad who is human, who loves them, and who will continuously make mistakes, but will work to work it out. And that I think for them, and like my daughter said to me yesterday, she said, Dad, man, it was cool spending the whole day with you. You really cool dad. You know what I mean? And it's not I'm a cool dad. It's that she's seeing me as a human being and she's seeing me in my humanity. And she says, like, and what I took it as is, I feel more comfortable and more successful and more capable of being human because I'm watching you be human. And man, because I get stories of mama don't do it like this, and why mama that, you know, and I'm just like reading the tea leaves, listening. I'm like, okay, I get it. And one of my counselors told me, there's a difference when you give somebody or you tell a message or give somebody advice and you're attached to the result. There's a difference between when you're attached to it is when you just give them advice and they have the freedom to do what they will with that advice. And I learned that and I brought that with my kids and it made things so much smoother. Like, I don't have to tell you, like, you have to do this. If you don't do it, you're going to make me look bad. You're going to fail. Your life's going to be over. You don't know what you're doing. You're not going to make up for it. No. Hey, here's my recommendation. I'm going to love you whether you do it or you don't. It just brings so much more freedom and flow to the exchange and a relationship and a lot less expectations.
You know, if you don't mind, I kind of have a philosophy that I kind of thought about at one point about theology. And theology simply just means the study of God, right? That's really what that means. And I believe that my theology affects my psychology, the things that I think about. What do I do with the information that's in my head? Well, my theology helps to dictate that. It helps to dictate my sociology, the way that I deal with the people around me. The way I view God is going to help me view people a particular way. But then it also helps, it informs and shapes my methodologies. So how I get the things that I want to get. My theology is what dictates whether I'm going to cheat, whether I am going to see you as human, whether I'm going to think this information is bad. And I guess my question for you is, where does God fit? Where does your theology fit in your willingness to be humble? Because humility is a risk. It's a risk. And so I guess let me not ask the theology thing. Let me say, where does your willingness to be humble, where does that come from? Let me not prejudice the question.
My willingness to
the judge is here. I got to make sure I don't want to get my information struck.
Well, first, before you answer, Rashawn, I got to say this. Now that Jason has completed his degree, he's using all sorts of fancy words, and theology and methodology and sociology and psychology. I ain't never heard him speak like that. I've known him.
Hey,
Jason's in the books now. Jason's using those long scientific words and stuff. Go ahead, Jason. I'm proud of you, man. Do your thing.
I got a BS. I got a BS, and I'm still on that BS too. I got a BS. Yeah.
Honors. Tell him with honors.
Summa cum laude.
Summa cum laude, yeah.
Yes, sir. Summa cum laude, yeah. Put some respect on my name. Hey, DeAndre, tell him to put some respect on my name. Ramo, tell him to put some respect on my name. What's up, Sarah and Miranda?
Oh, God.
Yeah, you put some respect. But anyway, this ain't about me. Well, it is, but not really.
It is.
But seriously though, man, because with a lot of hurt, pain and trauma, forced trauma, like these relationships of trust, all these things that caused me a real resistance to want to change. Where does your willingness to be humble and to be weak and to be vulnerable, where does that courage come from?
That's a good question. One thing that comes up is I'm eternally curious. I'm eternally curious about why I do the things I do, why I think the way I think. I'm always investigating myself. And so the humility, I think, comes from that investigation. Like, I'm nothing but a series of fuck ups, if you want to be honest. That series of fuck ups. Keep it at 100 with you. I did things wrong. I investigated. I learned. I was like, that didn't work. Let me try something else. And the honest, sad part is people's lives get affected when we mess up. And so me being humble is being able to realize, like, damn, that didn't work out. And I got an option. I go back and I go, you know what? I'm sorry. I messed it up. I didn't mean to do it that way. And I learned. And then I think once I learned there was a compounding effect from going back and apologizing or being authentic and being humble, I started to see humility as a strength. Like, wait a minute. And here's an analogy. I avoid and you a big relationship guy, Jay, so you get this totally. There's a guy a couple years ago, something happened, and screw that dude. I ain't gonna talk to him, man. Forget it. He did me wrong. All the reasons I could justify it, and I do it. Then one day I own the relationship. I go, you know what, bro? My bad. That didn't work out the way I wanted to work out. I apologize. For whatever reason, man, that wasn't my intent. From my heart, my bad. Now, I've gained a friend. I've gained an ally. And when I started to realize, whoa, I'm having a lot more allyships by just being humble and biting the bullet and speaking of what my intention was rather than the way it ended up and saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to go that way. People started meeting me at the point of humanity that I wanted to be at. And then I stopped looking at humility as this weak thing. I looked at it as this strength bonding thing. And I think there was a moment when I realized my ego was getting in the way. My ego was really causing a lot of problems. And I think one of the Sentinel events, like I said, when I went to that 10-day retreat, there's a weird thing that happened that I was able to observe. Because you can't talk, you don't have your phone, you eat a vegetarian diet, you can't communicate in signs. You're really forced to like look at yourself and be with your own thoughts. In those moments, I realized, fast forward to 10 days, that my mind wants to create a story about everybody. everything. It needs to create a story to feel comfortable. And that's not a problem. The problem is when I think that's the only story that exists and that it has to be right. And where this is the funniest thing ever, where it comes to mind is there was probably 50 men and probably 50 women. Women were separated. So there was 50 guys I'm seeing every day that I have to eat. Like, oh, I'm just judging people. I'm like, there was one guy, Asian guy with a long ponytail. I'm like, he must think he's a bad karate guy. He thinks he's tough. He thinks he's a bad. I'm coming up with so many stories, man, out of nowhere. And it's not like it's driven by TV because there's nobody talking. This is just my head, right? I saw a tall guy. Oh, he must think he's an athlete. He's a hooper, right? He thinks he's a bad. Day 10, you get to talk to these people. I wasn't right about one thing. I wasn't right about one thing. And it really made me realize we as people of color, we complain about getting looked at that way and judged that way. And it really took me into my mind to go, I do the same thing to people. And so it really took me to this place, man, where I really started looking at my ego and go, what is really going on in my head? And it was a really balancing act for me to go, yo, this is happening. Now, how do you balance that? You're like, yo, it's not true. I had this life experience where I'm like, no, that's just the narrative I'm telling myself based on where I've been, what I've seen. But it doesn't make it truth. It doesn't make it fact.
Wow.
Jason and I have talked in previous episodes about our time in therapy and counseling, and you mentioned it a little bit, Rashawn, but if you could help our audience understand a little bit about what led you there and how you felt going into that process, because I think that's illustrative for the people that are going to be watching and listening to this.
Illustrative.
I'm using big words. Yeah, I went to college too, man. I can't let people know.
Can I just be great? Can I just be That's that jurisdiction coming out. Yeah, 30 years along. That's illustrative, Rashawn. Yeah.
Oh,
and
my
put your
God.
pinky down when you drink. Ain't up there.
Like you see that? Did you catch that? Oh, man, I'm having fun. Counseling was a series of, like I said, I done failed at this thing, man. It was with my second. I went to counseling with my first wife, went to counseling with my second wife. But the second time going to counseling was instrumental. Instead of the counselor counseling a relationship, she was looking at us individually and counseling us. And I remember a point in time, man, and then I'm not throwing no tens on this. She asked me a question about my upbringing, and I was crying so hard. And I'm so hard. I had turned into a fetal position and was like this and crying, and I'm not exaggerating. I was crying so hard, I literally had an out-of-body experience where I saw myself crying and like, what is going on? What is happening? I've never cried like that in my life. She had to snap me out of it. She did something. She's like, Rashawn, blah, blah, I want you to do this. I don't know how she brought me back, but I saw myself crying that hard in the fetal position. And it made me realize all of the carnage that had come to my life was a part of things I was wrestling with that I hadn't dealt with. And in that moment, I was a firm believer in the value of self-counseling. Like the problems created out here are because of the problems I'm having in here that I'm not dealing with. I'm medicating, I'm looking over, I'm doing all kinds of stuff to avoid it, whatever it was. And from those tears, I become a huge fan in regards to, and I look at counseling like this. Look at what I can't see. Ask questions I may be afraid to ask. Dig in the holes that I don't know exist. That's what it means to me. And because I've come to a place of comfort with it, I'm like, I'm gonna let you in. Go ahead, get in there. Get in with the jackhammer. Get in. Send the search crew in. Because I want to know more about myself that is causing some of the hiccups and pains in my life. That's for me. And it doesn't have to, like the book I'm reading now about the emotion code. It just constantly trying to figure out the man I am today is the byproduct of what happened. What happened to me, and what was my takeaway? What was my scar? And somebody said, if parents healed before they had kids, we would have less scarred children. And so obviously I didn't get that before I had kids, but I'm definitely trying to deal with it so my kids can deal with it sooner. And so my granddaughter doesn't have to deal with it later.
Mm.
If you could give a brother that just whatever, if you had a piece of advice or a word, not a word, but like a theory or whatever, if you had a word, if you could give a word to a young brother that may be struggling with mental health, maybe has broken family, kids messed up, everything. It's all stupid, right? I mean, I'm 15, 20 years into the kid thing, everybody hates me, whatever, or just whatever. Really. What would you tell Rashawn if you could go back in those moments? What would you tell yourself? How about that? What would you tell yourself in your darkest moment?
Evaluate, investigate your support group. Search for silence. Make silence your friend. Make solitude your buddy. And make servitude your currency. Make silence your friend. Make solitude your buddy. And make servitude your currency. You will always find your way home. If you think about religions, groups, those three things are there: silence, solitude, servitude. It's always a foundation of those. Give unto your brother, give. Whatever form of giving you, a tithe or this, or go out and give your time. There's something that heals the soul and silences the ego when you step outside of yourself. My grandmother used to say this, there's a certain amount of wisdom that can only come from stillness. Those are the things I would tell myself. Stop running and be still. Only run when you're comfortable being still. Only move fast when you're comfortable being still. Because you think about the world today, we're comfortable going fast because everybody going fast. As soon as we have to slow down, like, something wrong. That's not the way it's meant to be. Because think about it. We always talk about God being that quiet, still voice. And for me, that's what I would tell myself. You want to know yourself? Be silent, be still. And then when you get to a place, then serve. Serve so you don't get outside of your ego and you don't get, outside of how you got there. Give it back. So that's what I would tell myself. Evaluate your friend group, silence, solitude, and servitude.
Let me just real quick, because one of the things that I think about in my darkest times, silence is the last thing I wanted. The last thing I wanted to do was get somewhere and let whatever I was thinking talk to me with no distraction. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to do as much as I can to get to the point. I don't want to hear none of that stuff. I mean, the stuff that was, you know what I mean? So is silence, I don't want to say is it always the thing, but like.
No, but there's different forms of silence. Like in your case, silence may be working to get rid of those voices, working to understand those voices, working to turn it down. So silence isn't just there's nothing. Silence can be the pursuit of getting to a place where I can hear my own voice, where I can hear my own thoughts. Silence is this. How do you feel? You good, bro? Brothers, y'all good? I have to be silent to know, am I good or not? I have to be in a place where I can hear you. No, I'm actually not, Jay. I have to be in that still moment. So I don't want to paint silence as this empty room where there's nobody talking. It's basically turning or getting rid of distractions so you could tune into or address, why can't I be calm or be still in my own voice? Whatever that is to address that knob. And it's not going to come like you just put yourself in a room and close the door. No, I had to work at being silent. I had to work at being still. And it was the work of getting there that led me into myself to go, oh, this is very loud because I haven't dealt with this. And now I go deal with that. And as I deal with that, it lowers the volume of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and as we close, I just one parting thing from my perspective, can you talk a little bit about, and then I'll turn it over to you, Mike, but talk a little bit about what you do now, what you're about. Talk a little bit about your website. What can folks expect on your website? Yeah.
So I everything I do and talk about or teach or do is this. It's rooted in this. I use the medium of the fire service teams, groups, or whatever it is to bring us back to the humanity of what we're doing. And in particularly in regards to the fire service, a phrase I use is, we don't need more policies. We don't need more paperwork. We don't need that. We just need to slow down and address the human value inherent to all people. And when we do that, the answers we're looking for will rise to the surface. So that's in a nutshell. That's what I do when I talk to organizations or groups, because all of them, in some regards, have the same root cause issue: performance, this, that. And one of the things you heard me say before, people drive progress, but emotions drive people. So I get people to try to go back and look at, let's get down to the humanity of what's going on here and see where we are either aren't addressing the humanity, we're stepping over it, we're looking past it. One classic example, and every organization, most organizations do this, they'll have a meeting. They expect everybody to show up on time to the meeting. Meeting starts at 8. Okay, we start the meeting. We run the meeting from 8 till noon. And then you wonder when the meeting ends, why aren't we having success? Everybody's at the meeting, right? Yeah, but everybody didn't show up to the meeting the same way. You didn't address how they showed up to the meeting. You didn't address the humanity of them coming in. Somebody could have the debt. Everybody might be at the same space, but everybody's not in the same place. And so that's what I basically teach, and through stories like this and my life and just tapping more into my humanity.
RashawnFulcher.com, consultant, speaker. You got courses, you got swag, or you got
right there.
paraphernalia.
Yeah.
You got a book, you got all kinds of stuff. Get up! I can't drag you to my level. Ha! Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah. Well, that's it for me, man. I want to say thank you for the time that you gave us. I appreciate you, man.
No, absolutely. And I'll say, man, just to everybody, I got the same different challenges, but similar struggles day to day. Standing 10 toes down. I don't got it all figured out. It's a struggle every day to maintain perspective, which is what it should be. It's a fight. It's a fight to keep the right mentality and right perspective. And so I don't have it all figured out. I just got enough scars and bruises to know which way not to go again.
Yeah. Well, man, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. I wish that, I always wish that we had more time. There's so many other areas that we could go, but this won't be the last time you're here. That's for sure. We definitely want to share more space with you. And I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your night to be here and share a little bit about your story, for being vulnerable. I appreciate that. And as always, man, I love you, bro. I really appreciate you. And thanks for your time.
Love you too, Jay. Love you too, Judge.
Oh, Rashawn, like I said, in just a couple of weeks, it's been amazing how close we've gotten from that first phone call to your visit to talking to you about the next trip that you've got down to San Diego, hopefully in a couple of weeks, so we can chop it up once again. It feels like family. To breaking bread Sunday before last, all of that stuff was just amazing. You buying out the food store and the church, all that stuff, right? Seeing that side of you, that humanity that you talk about. What I'm so impressed about with you is how you model that walk, right? You have the ability, Jason alluded to it a bit, you present really well. You're tall, weightlifting, bodybuilding dude that got an amazing smile and all that stuff. But that's not the part that comes through. What comes through is your humanity and your willingness to share that with others. And so it's just a pleasure for me to be in your space once again. I'm hoping that you get a chance to bring your daughters down next time you come so we get a chance to meet them in person. But even seeing them last night on Zoom was really cool. And as Jason referred to, that relationship that you have with them is just something I hope that you're proud of, because it's beauty for us to watch that as fathers of girls, seeing someone else who's a father of girls and seeing those girls interact with their daddy and how much they clearly love him because they are peeking over his shoulder, making sure you look good today when you got to get on screen. So they did a great job. Give them a shout out once again when you get off of this. And for all those people that have tuned in to this live, and especially those that have commented, we appreciate you more than you'll ever know. You make this so meaningful for us. For those of you that are going to be watching this later, we love you just as much because you don't have to be here with us live to hopefully get some of the benefit of this discussion. And we try to do this every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. When we go to daylight time, I'm sure we'll keep it at 7 p.m. But we appreciate all of you that have tuned in. Before I go to Jason to close us in prayer, just want to take a moment for Jason and I to talk about where we were last Tuesday. And so, Jason, I'll let you go first. I'll wrap up and then I'll turn it back to you for prayer.
Yeah. So and you all heard this last week, we talked about just how amazing it is to be able to do something like what we're doing and the type of opportunities that is brought forward when we decided to walk in faith and take this journey. And we were invited to hang out with our last two guests, last week's or the week prior to that's guest at a men's gathering. And what was super dope about it is there were, there must have been 40 men at the facility at the Malcolm X Library. And it was really dope to be in that space and talk about mental health with all Black males, therapists. There was discussions talking just real basic things, but people were able to get to the depths that they need to get to, and it was still tangible for everybody that was there. And that's really difficult to do. And so shout out to Ojre and to Nate. And there's about 3 or 4 other therapists that were there, but it wasn't a therapeutic space where you felt like everybody was like looking at everybody crazy. It wasn't one of those things. It was a very calm space. And I think it's really neat to have therapists that are there that understand group dynamics to keep things moving and to make everybody feel heard. And there's no big eyes or little U's in that space. So really shout out to Nate and to Ojre. And I believe it's the first Tuesday of every month at Malcolm X Library at 6:30. Goes from 6:30 for right now, 6:30 to 8 at the Malcolm X Library. And I believe it's the first Tuesday. So if you brothers have a chance to come out, please do. Buckle up.
Yeah. It was great for us to be a part of it because we've talked about trying to create a space, and Ojre and Nate have done that. And we joked with them. They started their project, the Nurturing Brotherhood group, a couple months before we started the podcast. They started with, I think Ojre said they started the first time it was about 12 brothers. As Jason said, last week there were 40 strong. So much so that there was patrons from the library that stopped on their way out to say, I don't know exactly what y'all are doing, but it's great to see all y'all sitting in a circle talking respectfully to each other about what you're talking about. And so, as Jason mentioned, it's a space where if you've got something that you want to talk about, there's people that you can share that with. But if you don't want to talk, you can just sit in that space. Do what Rashawn's talking about is explore that silence around other people. Because you sit for a couple hours, it's at 6:30 to 8 because the library closes at 8. So it's actually 7:55 because everybody's out the door by 8 o'clock. But what was neat about that was even then, there were brothers that were in the parking lot still continuing those conversations and those relationships that are going to continue to help us heal as men, right? As part of this group of humanity. And I couldn't agree more with what you said, Rashawn, that if as we get help and heal, we make it easier for those that we help in the future because we've dealt with some of that stuff that's been unresolved. So shout out to you for being a part of that. Shout out, Jason. I love you, my brother. I appreciate everything that you've done as we've done this walk together. And there's more stuff coming. By next week, we'll probably have some more big news about what's going on with us. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason, because like I said at the beginning, I couldn't have come up with this idea on my own. I came up with this idea because God put it on my heart to do this, to have this conversation. God put it on my heart to reach out to Jason. And everything that's happened since then has been a testament to how great God is in my life. And so I thank him for that. And Jason, if you could bring us home in prayer.
Yeah. And as we always say, thank you, man. Much love to you, Mike. Thank you. And again, Rashawn, thank you, man. Love you. And as I always say, you know, part of this journey for me has been part of faith. And so I'm a Christian. That's the tradition that I carry and hold dear to my heart. I know that there's even trauma around that nowadays. But I promise you, they not like us. But let's pray we can get on up out of here, man. God, I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful for these spaces. Thanks for another day. As we think about mental health and what it means to so many people, there is a lot going on in the world. There are people that are carrying stuff that we couldn't even imagine. There are people that have weights on their shoulders and backs that they have no idea how to deal with it. So I just pray that you would create roads for some of these folks to be able to begin the journey to get healing. I pray that you would give them people in their lives to help walk them through the mess. And as I always share, I pray that those that are really struggling with weight, I know sometimes you get to the place that you're asking God to give you a hand. But God, I hope that you would help some people to realize that there are some of us that you're taking through what we're going through, or we're being allowed to go through this to become the hand that we once wanted to hold. So help us to hold on until we can become the hand to hold. So thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for this time. Thank you for Facebook and all the technology. Thank you for Rashawn, his humility, his family, for hanging in there with him. Thank you for his entire experience. Thanks for Mike's experience, everything. Thank you to everybody that pray that you bless everybody that joined us. And just help us to be responsible for what you gave us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Men, much love to you, brothers. Love y'all, man. Everybody, as Mike said, thanks for spending the time with us today. We really, really appreciate you. And we'll see you all again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.
Peace.